All right, we are live. This is Comics on Kane. It's Michael Yo, and man, oh man, the news came down yesterday about Jackson Cantwell. Absolutely amazing. But the man who's here to break it all down for us, extraordinaire, all over social media, has the best private board in the world, Gio Milian. What's up, bro? How are you?
What's up, Mike? I'm sure Hurricanes fans are super excited. Whirlwind of a last 2 weeks with this whole recruitment process with Jackson Cantwell. Miami was leading for most of it. They were even supposed to get a commitment out of him heading into that week of the spring game a month ago at this time. He decides to push things back. The Oregon visit, the Georgia visit, the I should say, media propaganda from a certain SEC team pushing
Yes.
narratives out there over the past week. But the kid followed through with what he initially wanted to do. He wanted to
And,
commit to Miami before. He ended up following through with it yesterday. Miami landed the number one prospect in the country. I think that's a statement in itself. And the second highest ranked prospect of all time in program history in the modern recruiting era, 25 years now.
wow, for Miami or just in all?
For Miami,
Who's number one?
DJ Williams.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Here's what's amazing to me is we were consistent last week. Gio, we kind of said you could. I think sometimes analysts and people that are, I don't even compare you to those people in that world, but they're so in it where they listen to everything. And I think agents actually leverage them for, hey, this is where we're leaning to see you put out a crystal ball and then the other team backs it up with money. So I think these people that are coming out with crystal balls a lot of time are being used by agents for leverage. But we were consistent because to me, if you're an offensive lineman that's great at track and field and you're not on a relay team and you need other fast people with you, it's an individual sport. You can play anywhere and do your track sport. So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
where you go, right? And then if you want the best offensive lineman coach, if you want the best coach and a head coach that cares about offensive linemen, you come to Miami. And it seemed obvious to me that he was taking these other trips as a courtesy, you know? And I still do believe Miami needs to win this year, of course, to keep him. But I just feel that, it was without a doubt we were going to get him. And I never worried about Georgia. I never worried about Oregon. And you even crystal balled it too. I mean, you even said on our show last week that you really thought he was coming too. Why did you hold your stance when other people were flip flopping last week?
I'll be honest with you. The night before, look, I'm not going to toot my own horn here. A lot of the signals that were coming from Miami's side, uh, there was concern heading into that last day. I actually backed off my pick the night before.
Did you really? I didn't know
Put in
that.
a pick. I didn't put in a pick for any other school. I told people, hey, look, here's what's going on. This really could go either way. I don't feel as confident as I once did in this pick on Miami. I'm not saying it's not going to be I hate doing the hedging stuff, but
Yeah.
keeping it very real. And a few hours before the announcement, I said, hey, I'm riding with Miami here. And I explained the reasoning why. I gave like 7-8 paragraphs on it. People were like, damn. Basically explaining what had happened. Look, Miami's deal was incredible that was on the table. And aside
Yeah.
from that, I've always been consistent with the theme from the beginning that Miami, from the onset of all this, one of the things that people don't talk about with Cantwell, he reached out to Miami himself, doing his own research over a year ago in terms of like teams recruiting him. Miami wasn't like the first team. He kind of reached out to them like, hey, I'm interested. And they're like, whoa, okay.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that. That's great information. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, no, him and his family did a ton of research in terms of like development of offensive line. The kid knows who every single starter has been at Miami for like the last few years on the offensive line. He knows who Mario Cristobal has put into the NFL at the position too, because There was a little bit of discourse from Oregon's side of things at one point that they were claiming. They were like, yeah, Panay Sewell came through here. Well, the guy who actually coached, the two guys that coached and developed him, they're actually in Coral Gables now. They're not in Eugene, Oregon anymore.
And here's the thing, Jackson Cantwell, people saying he's a generational talent. I don't know what type of high school level he played at, because, when you play in Florida, you're playing against the best high school players in the country. What level of competition was he playing against? Because we saw Pancake. We always question the level of competition he played against. So what level did Jackson play against?
Well, people would jump to the conclusions of, oh, well, he's in Missouri. He's not playing against that many good players or this or that. Well, that's true to an extent. 9 times out of 10 guys that have been 5-star prospects that have come out of the area where he's at, Luther Burden, Dorial Green Beckham. You also had a Miami guy himself, Rusty Medeiros, as well, came out of that Missouri area, the Ozarks. Look, guys that have come out of that area that have been highly ranked, they have all panned out. They have been the talent that they were expected to be. And also, I went down the list of just number 1 overall composite guys over the last 25 years. I mean, some of the most recent, like Jeremiah Smith, but for the most part, all those guys have gone first round. I think it was, from my study, only one guy went early second. One guy went undrafted, which was like an anomaly.
Yeah.
And another guy went 7th round, which was Quinn Ewers this past year. And everyone knows he should have came back to play another year in college, but for whatever reason, he wanted to go pro.
Well, he was being pushed out of Texas, and he probably didn't want to play for anybody else except Texas. So, but I think he could have got a lot of money. I think he should have went back to college and did his thing, but, we'll see. Do you think, from what you've seen of Jackson Cantwell, he is a generational player like everybody's saying?
In terms of the athletic profile, yes.
Okay.
6'8", over 300 pounds, can move very well. People don't know this. He actually played tight end and defensive line before converting to left tackle in high school. So he was a skill position guy. He was a really good hooper too, played on the AAU scene as well when he was much younger. So he's got a good athletic background there. Both parents Olympians. And you also have what was the other thing that was in there? There was one more thing. Shoot. It's totally skipping my mind right now. But yeah. Multi-sport, multiple competitions that he has competed in over the years. And look, I think it's just a tremendous get for the program. I think it shifts a lot of the narrative. I won't back off what I've said, that being in the ACC sometimes hurts Miami in some of these in these recruiting battles. It still does in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But this was not all about the money. And we've been saying this over and over again. Like, Georgia fans will say, oh, he took the bag, this and that. Georgia's offer was very competitive. Oregon was very competitive with their offer. He was going to get money regardless of where he went.
Thank you, Gio. And I hate this whole, they paid a bag to get. Every school would have paid a bag to get Jackson Cantwell. When you got 3 bags that are basically the same, you're going, all right, who's going to make me the best player now? And that's what it comes down to. His parents were involved with it. Guess what? He talked to his parents, and his parents are like, why wouldn't you go to a place that is going to put out a number 1 draft? I mean, a top first-round draft pick next year in the draft, offensive lineman. And yeah, it just seemed like a no-brainer to me when people are using the money issue, but every school was going to pay about the same amount,
So I got a question for you, Mike, actually.
Yeah.
Do you think on a perception level, this is a bigger win than when Miami landed Francis Mauigoa?
You know what? I was about to bring that up with you because we were very hyped on that. Because really, if you think about it, that was the first one Mario really brought in that everybody's like, whoa. And I think this is bigger. I think this is bigger because, let me tell you why. I think this is bigger because this is kind of like what we hinted at when we texted each other. I think this creates a snowball effect.
Yes.
Where no offensive lineman that even committed to other schools are off limits now. I think offensive linemen that we wanted that may have committed otherwhere are going, I'm still strong with my school, but wow, they're doing things. Other recruits are looking at this. I saw some recruits we're looking at that even were like big eyes open or like, whoa, what's that? I think it builds momentum. I think that it creates excitement because he's so celebrated, where Francis was celebrated, but not like Jackson, you know?
Yeah, and I think look, like Francis is a phenomenal player.
Phenomenal.
And so is Cantwell. They're both phenomenal prospects. But I think just from the perception level, like when you're talking about, you want to say like propaganda, Miami propaganda or anything like that or sorts. When you say number 1 overall player to Miami, you haven't heard that in a long time. And then you back that up before that with number 1 overall draft pick, Cam Ward. Perception changes very quickly. That's why I say like this year is so crucial for this program to build upon what was achieved last year. Yes, they came up short at the end, but you can't go back this year. You have to marching on forward, because if you march on forward, everyone's eyes are open and saying, wait a minute, Miami's for real. Like this is not like every 4 or 5 years they have a good season. No, like now they're stacking this.
And they're going to have more first-round draft picks next year, I believe. 1 or 2.
You got 3 guys in that conversation that could end up being first-round guys. I'm not saying for sure they'll be, but there's a lot of discussion about it. Carson Beck, Ruben Bain, Francis Maunier. I think if Miami could get 2 out of those 3 guys in the first round, that's a huge win for the program. And even just recruiting going forward and perception.
And you know, like the boards, you know, when you see people at the boards, the first thing they go is like, yeah, we got them, but blah, blah, blah. You know, there's always negative people on the boards.
Yeah, but I will say this. People that are being pessimistic.
Yeah, but I will say this. Just go back 4 years ago. That offensive line, that defensive line, it was horrendous, where nobody was going in the first round.
Well, let's talk about that, though. The type of talent that Mario Cristobal has brought in on both sides of the line.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to give a shout out to a good friend of mine that's been in the media for many years. He's been involved with Miami even longer than I've been involved. I've been involved 7-8 years now. Mm-hmm. He's been for like over 20 years. A good friend of mine, David Lake, over at Inside You, he wrote a very good piece today that I saw come across social media today, and I read a bit of it. And it had to do with the 5-star talent that Mario Cristobal has brought in on the offensive and defensive lines. And let's think of it like this. So first, you mentioned, Mike, Francis Maunier. Yeah. That was a big eyeball opener. You also had Samson Okunlola, Armando Blunt. You can make an argument that Ruben Bain should have been a 5-star as well. There was a lot of arguments about that, but
absolutely,
the recruiting sites wouldn't bite. But Armando Blunt, Marquise Lightfoot, Justin Scott, Hayden Lowe, talents like that, and now a Jackson Cantwell. You win up front in college football. It starts up front with the lines. You win in the trenches.
You know, it was interesting when Manny Diaz was coach. What was celebrated was specialty players like receivers, running backs. I mean, the line was really never talked about, you know, at least from me being an outsider, more of an outsider. It was always like, we got this running back, we got this wide receiver. You know, it was never, we got this offensive lineman. You know, now it's reversed. It's like, oh, we got this offensive. We get excited about defensive linemen and offensive linemen. And the specialty players were like, oh, great, that's cool. But man, if we get to trenches, and I think that's the way college football has moved too. It's like, yo, if you don't win in the trenches, it's obvious. You know, it was all about for a time in college football, quick passes, flash, 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 score a lot of points, and you win. Now you're seeing it go kind of old school again, where it's Michigan all about those trenches. Before. Yeah.
Michigan the year before, you look at that Ohio State defense last year. The investment they made, even bringing in a guy like Caleb Downs onto a already good defense as it was heading into the season. So, yeah, I'm totally on board with you, Mike. Like, look, I think we can go back to think of the Peach Bowl. You remember the Peach Bowl when Miami played LSU there and
Yep.
brawl that happened in the tunnel and everything.
Yep.
I go back to that game and you look at the size of the trenches up front between Miami and LSU, or you go back to when Miami faced Alabama some years ago, or even LSU in recent times. There was a jarring difference between the guys up front for Miami and LSU and Alabama and these other programs. Miami up front looks in night and day different than they did 3 to 4 years ago.
I remember when they played Alabama and got walked. It was almost like a real college team playing against a JV team.
Yeah.
Like up front. That's what it looked like. And I was like, oh, there's no way we're going to win this game. And now, like you said, man, and I hate to say this but it is the best comparison. And this is when you look up front for Miami right now, it looks like an SEC front on both sides of the ball. And I hate that I have to say that, but that's what rings the bell. It's like these people can walk into the SEC and compete with these other players,
Yeah, well, Miami is becoming another Clemson in the ACC. Any national pundit would say it for many years that Clemson was an SEC team inside the ACC. Miami has taken on that model as well. They very much should compete for an ACC championship game appearance again this season.
Well, let me ask you this, Gio. If they don't win the ACC this year, when by far they're the most talented team in the ACC, is that a failure?
Well, what should we quantify as failure? I think, look,
not winning the
my
ACC.
opinion from what I've seen with this team, and now that the roster is completely set coming into the season, no more additions. I think anything less than 10 wins is disappointment in my eyes, evaluating the roster, what I've seen, the tape I've watched of the players coming in. I think anything less than 10 wins is a disappointment. But I think it's also a disappointment if you don't get to that ACC game. Now, whatever happens there, I'm not going to mark them up for that. But yes, they are the most talented team in the ACC. I agree 100% there.
Yeah. Okay, now I saw a video of you, and I got a video that you posted of Carson Beck throwing the ball, and I got really excited because I've been very questionable because I don't trust people that say Carson Beck is throwing the ball. I need to see it, and I saw him rip one on your Twitter page, and I was like, okay, it looks good. Do you have any more information? What have you heard about his workouts?
Yeah, so that's been going on for a couple weeks now. Just him throwing the ball. He's going to start throwing it deep very soon, within like the next week or two, from what I've overheard from some people around the program. So for people concerned, like, okay, well, that was like a simple curl route. What about him throwing a deep shot or this and that's coming? Cristobal did share at the ACC spring meetings that Carson is about like 90% ready right now. He is cleared for all summer activities. So the team is on sort of break right now. Next week, they're back on campus. They'll be back working, summer workouts, all that good stuff. Organized functions between the team and other players and whatnot. Coaches can't be involved. But again, Carson's going to have time to throw with those guys and get on schedule and a routine with those receivers and tight ends even before fall camp opens.
And I think we talked about it before. I think its consensus is he has so much experience that the time missed from the camp is not going to affect him as much because, he's played the game, he knows the game, and he knows what he wants. So it's not like a freshman walking in there. So it's not going to be as detriment to him as it would a newer quarterback.
Yes, I talked about that with a few former players. Even Amon Richards does the show with me every week. He shared himself that veteran guys, they don't necessarily per se need that spring football. Spring football is more so it's an evaluation of your roster, like where you stand at this point now in college football. Like, what's your roster looking like going into the fall? And most guys are being sidelined, so they're 100% for the season. Or guys are getting cleanup surgeries. Like a year ago, you had Francis Mauigoa and Kiko Mauigoa. They both sat out spring. They had cleanup shoulder surgery and whatnot. So things like that go on.
I will say this, just to switch the subject on Cam Ward and the Titans. I have never taken an interest of going to Locked On Titans and hearing about like I've never followed a player like I've followed Cam Ward to the Titans, and he's created so much excitement. I'm not a Titans fan at all, but he's created so much excitement for Miami fans to watch him at the Titans. And you know what? He's played for a lot of schools, but man, every time you see him, he wears that Miami on his chest. And I think that just makes us so proud, and that he claims us, even though he played for other schools, he claims us. And man, I check in with the Titans news every day to see how he's doing. And I just get so excited about him and what he did for Miami that led us. And I do believe that helped get Jackson Cantwell, that helped get Carson Beck. You know, it creates excitement all around, man. I've never watched a player leave Miami this focused in on them. I mean, how are you? I mean, I'm sure you're doing the same.
Yeah, I'm watching it very closely. Watching also what's going on with Restrepo out there.
Yeah, with X.
A lot of early reports are saying that he is looking really impressive. The other thing I'll share too, they actually just released the opening game schedules for a lot of teams around the league, and the European games and the game that they're going to have in Spain this year. But week 1, Cam Ward's going to face Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos.
That defense.
That secondary that they have, Patrick Surtain Jr., Jahdae Barron that they just got from Texas. So nice challenge for Cam Ward week 1. I would like to see how he responds in his first game in the league.
Man, I am so excited. Is there any other news? Because I saw Derek Cooper. He even retweeted the news of Jackson Cantwell. He was like, whoa, this is big. You know, which made me excited. Is there any other news of recruits and what's going on? Is there a lot of excitement about Jackson Cantwell as well?
Yes, there is a shockwave effect when you land a guy like Jackson Cantwell. Like I mentioned about perception and guys opening up their eyes. I'll share this much. Miami has momentum. Some of these guys I have picks in already for some time now that I'll mention in a second here. But Miami has real momentum with some guys like 5-star running back Derek Cooper, who I've had a pick placed in for with Miami since November.
Yeah.
They also have momentum with Cannon Pickett, 4-star offensive lineman out of the Tampa area. His brother plays for the University of Miami. His father also played for UM in the late 90s. Like where Miami's at there. They're kind of battling with Clemson there. UF trying to get in the mix, but Miami's out in front there at the moment. Also like where Miami's at with Ashari Charles from Venice, Florida, 4-star pass rusher. I've had a pick in for him dating back 3 months. I got a whiff of that from speaking to someone around the program that they were looking really good there. I placed the pick about 3 months ago on the board, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of crystal balls are rolling in from other websites now. So I guess it's just a validation there. And then a couple other guys that I put on some notes here before we got on today. They're actually trending really well with 4-star linebacker Malik Morris.
Nice.
From Florida, Polk County area. I am a little wary about it because the historical circumstances that have happened with Polk County guys in Miami, but they're in a good position there, battling with Florida, Texas A&M. I know there's a couple other programs in there. I really like where Miami's at for 5-star cornerback Chauncey Kennan out of the Sarasota, Florida area. He's also a Miami legacy. He's had some family that's also gone to Florida State and a couple other programs, but Miami's really setting the pace there. I know Georgia's involved too, a few other programs, Florida State, Florida as well, trying to get in the mix. But Miami really hit it off with him during his visit for the spring game, and things have continued to trend well there. So I actually placed the pick for him to Miami back in January. So nice. I haven't moved off of it. So, and 2 last guys I'll bring up. Justice Fitzpatrick, the younger brother of Minka Fitzpatrick, who played for the Alabama Crimson Tide, was primarily recruited by Mario Cristobal when Minka was coming out of the New Jersey area. Played there at Alabama with Saban and Cristobal, went on to the NFL, Dolphins, Steelers, multi-Pro Bowler guy. Everyone knows who Minka Fitzpatrick is, but his younger brother, Justice Fitzpatrick, he's playing his high school ball at St. Thomas Aquinas. This is a guy that not many people are talking a lot about, but I think people should start paying a little more attention to. Miami's very much in the mix there. You're talking about a guy who's like a top 50, top 60 prospect in the entire country. They're very much in the mix, and they have a real shot at landing him when he decides to make a decision. And the last guy, Blake Stewart, 4-star safety out of the state of Georgia, placed a pick for him and Miami back in April. Still like where Miami's trending there. They're going to start pushing the gas on that one too.
But let's just, I mean, really, just look at what you said. You just said about 2 or 3 5-stars and the rest 4-stars. 4 or 5 years ago, that would have never happened. You know what I mean? That wouldn't even be a conversation we're having right now. We'll be like, well, we got these 3 stars. We got maybe a couple 4 stars, 5 stars that are way out there but have no shot. I mean, just look how, so when people dump on Mario, and I get it, it's fun to dump on him. It gets a lot of clicks, and that's why people do it. They go on boards, just say something crazy about Mario, and then people go back. I get it. I get it. It's clicks. That's what we do. But if you just look about what Gio just said, we over the last 10 years, we've never, maybe 20 years, we've never had it like that. You know, where it's a 3 5-stars could be coming. You got all these 4-stars. You got the number 1 player in the country that committed. I mean, this is amazing time for Miami fans. So to me, my message to them is enjoy this, man. This is awesome.
Oh, one last nugget I'll drop.
Yeah.
The number 1 receiver in the nation, Tristan Keys, who's committed to LSU.
Yeah.
Miami had him on campus twice in the spring. There's a lot of chatter going around that he may back off his LSU commitment really soon. His recruitment is very wide open. I've been told it's a very big NIL-based recruitment. Miami's very much in it there. Tennessee, Ole Miss also in the mix too. Feel like I might be forgetting 1 or 2 other programs, but yeah, there's a lot of chatter that he may back off that LSU commitment soon. So that one's very wide open.
Now, if he backs off the LSU commitment, there's 2 reasons. He may still want to go to LSU, but then you can get more money when you're back on the market, right? I mean, that's a agent play as well. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, to an extent. I also told people on your show and with Alex Dono some months ago when he committed to LSU, everyone's like, "Oh man, we lost him." I told people, no, Miami's still on him. Teams are still going to recruit him. It's not over.
And just remember, it's not over with Jackson either. I mean, teams, it's not like you think it is.
His circumstance is very different. This was more so like this is it. This is what I want to do. I did all my research. If he left out of Miami's class, I would be completely shocked. A lot of people around the program would be completely shocked.
Okay.
This is almost as concrete as it can get.
Oh, well,
now, obviously, you know, if you go out in the season and lay an egg, you know, circumstances can really change at any point. But the thought process going into the decision was that this is it. This is what I want to do. Okay.
So by the recruiting class, we're number 9 now. We jumped 9 spots. I believe we were 18, jumped to 9. When it's all said and done, where do you think this recruiting class lands, if you had to guess?
I think they have a real shot at the top 10. They're in play for a lot of guys that are in that top 50, top 60, top 70 range that they're still recruiting and whatnot. I would love to say top 5, but I know how these things go. Like a couple of things have to bounce Miami's way. So I'm going to play it safe today and think, yes, it's very realistic they could be back in the top 10. I don't want to rule out top 5, but I'm not ready to say that though.
Okay, cool. Now, Gio, tell everybody where they can find you. I mean, talk about your private board. It's awesome. Over 1,100, 1,200 people are subscribed to it, which is so amazing for you.
Yeah. So the private board, actually, you can find it on my X account. I'll drop it in the comments here after Mike uploads this episode of Comics on Canes. You could also watch the weekly show with me and Amon Richards called Who Wants Smoke on YouTube or X. We're also live on Instagram now too. You can find it on YouTube at Who Wants Smoke _Inc. INC. And you can find me on X as well at Gio Milian or other shows. Sometimes I'm on Locked on Canes as well with my good friend Alex Dono.
I love Alex. Alex was worried that we were going to lose Jackson. I was listening to his fire.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. Yep. All right, man. Hey, have a great one, man. I appreciate you popping on.
Thank you, Mike. Anytime.